What if I told you Prince Harry was kicked out of his own home by Meghan Markle, just as he tried to beg for forgiveness? It started with a whisper and unease that floated through the corridors of their Montecito mansion like a ghost refusing to be ignored. Prince Harry had just returned from a brief but emotionally charged visit to a veterans charity event in San Diego, an event he had insisted on attending alone. By all appearances it had been a success. Cameras caught him smiling, laughing, hugging wounded servicemen. But as he pulled into the driveway of their multi-million-dollar California estate that evening, something in his eyes betrayed a different story: guilt, regret, maybe even fear. Before we continue, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Harry had spent that trip thinking, not about publicity, nor about brand deals, nor even about royal obligations long left behind. He was thinking about Meghan, about where they started, about where they now stood, and most of all about how much had gone unsaid between them. In that car ride home, the Duke of Sussex wasn't rehearsing statements for Netflix or preparing for a podcast. He was preparing for a conversation, an apology, a plea. He wanted to try one last time to repair what had become undeniably broken, but he didn't know Meghan had already moved on. Inside the Montecito estate, tension brewed like an electric storm. Meghan had just come off a high-profile Zoom call with a Hollywood producer, a discussion that, according to leaked details, revolved entirely around solo projects, branding herself without hair, breaking into the wellness empire without the royal narrative, and even reimagining her personal story, this time as a woman who overcame a controlling, outdated institution, and maybe even a toxic relationship. She was radiant on the call, poised, strategic. But when the call ended and her assistant left the room, Meghan let out a deep sigh, not the sigh of a woman burdened by the weight of the world, but the sigh of someone preparing to close a chapter she no longer had the energy to keep reading. She wasn't expecting Harry to return early, and he wasn't expecting the conversation that would follow to explode into the biggest emotional detonation their marriage had ever seen. As Harry opened the front door and stepped inside, he found Meghan seated calmly in their sunken living room, sipping from a crystal wine glass. There was no smile, no hug, no warmth, just silence. Then she said it. "So you're back. Why?" Those three words hung in the air, not like a question, but like a verdict. Harry froze. He hadn't expected it to begin like this. His mind, already swimming in rehearsed apologies and hopeful memories, blanked entirely. I wanted to talk," he said, voice faltering. "We haven't really talked. I think we need to." Meghan didn't respond immediately. She simply stood, walked to the other side of the room, and looked out the tall glass doors toward the garden. Then, without turning around, she spoke again. "Do you really think words are going to fix this?" It was at that moment Harry realized she had already made up her mind, maybe weeks ago, maybe months. Everything he was about to say, every plea he had crafted in his heart, was no longer relevant. He had arrived with a desire to heal, but she had already moved on to severing ties. But Harry wasn't ready to give up. "I know I've made mistakes," he began. "I know I've said things, done things, that made you feel alone, but I'm still here. I want to be here. I want to try." The words were sincere,
painful,
even beautiful in a tragic way. But Meghan didn't flinch. "No," she said. "You want to feel better about yourself. That's not the same thing." Then came the shouting. Insiders would later say that neighbors could hear fragments of the argument from the gated hedges. Phrases like "manipulated," "used me," "never understood," and "this isn't love" reportedly erupted through the walls. Harry at one point was heard saying, "You said we were in this together. You promised me." To which Meghan allegedly responded, "I kept us together longer than I should have." In a matter of minutes, the dream house had become a battlefield. And then she said the words that would later dominate headlines. "Get out, right now. I don't want to see you here again." Security was summoned, not to physically remove Harry. He wasn't resisting, but to ensure that Meghan didn't have to interact with him any further. Staff members, awkwardly and apologetically, assisted him in collecting a few belongings. No suitcases, just a duffel bag, a charger, a jacket he'd left by the door. He didn't even take his phone. In that moment, the Duke of Sussex, once a royal figure surrounded by pomp and pageantry, stood outside his own California home, stunned, stripped of dignity, betrayed, and with nowhere to go. Paparazzi didn't catch this moment. The estate is too private, but one insider, an anonymous driver who picked Harry up that night, described his state simply as a broken man. What pushed Meghan to the edge?